All right, so Bitcoin market updates. It looks like we are currently on that trajectory to that 3,500 area. I say, a rough area could be like 35 to 4,000 is kind of what I'm looking at. Um, so those are areas that I intend on closing out on my long from the dip buy. Dip buy being for me it was in the 19s, right? As we're breaking out of this immediate descending line. I was sleeping for the immediate dip buy. I probably would have bought the dip here and scalped it. Um, so, basically it kind of touched down and we had like this prior resistance area kind of turned support. And it also touched an ascending trend line, right? Anytime it dips down after 3 days of blood on an ascending trend line, it's usually a high probability area. So that's why I sent out a trade alert for a dip buy like that, even though the price was still at like 2,000 or higher, right? So which is still significantly higher than it was several months ago. But my rationale was a couple of things really. So number one, we had 3 days of blood. I've often seen bounces and recoveries after 3 days of sell off. Number two, we had touched this ascending trend line. And number three, we had some resistance here that kind of turned into support. Number four, there was this immediate descending trend line that I was looking at, right? And then, number five, higher lows, so you're good. Um, you know, I did get stopped out, but once it reached a higher low, I entered back in, right? Now, why did I get stopped out? Well, maybe the stop running the stop a little bit too tight, but I was just looking at this immediate trend line, which is funny because if you take out this if you take out this little fake down right here, this trend line actually came up perfectly along the way, right? So this little breakdown was just kind of like a little fake out, right? But as soon as you could cut out of something, and then as soon as you see it producing a higher low and holding up, you could just get right back into your position, right? If you're quick on the trigger. Um, so it definitely helps to pay attention to these areas live, right? So anyways, so then it came back up above this immediate trend line and started crawling up. So, a lot of people were thinking, oh, it could be like a ascending wedge type formation. And indeed it could have, right? If it had broken down from this ascending wedge, then yeah, this could have been a breakdown. But it didn't. Instead, it broke out and then it produced a new high. So now we just had a little bit of a correction, a retracement, right? Which is now retesting the prior all-time high and seeing if this holds up, right? So if we continue on this trajectory, let's just look at the larger trend again. Let's go to 1 week. Look how parabolic that is. It's ridiculous. So the 3,000 mark, which you just kind of creeped up to, there is resistance here at 3,000. I mean, 3,000 is going to be a big area to break, right? It's a big psychological, remote, emotional area, multiples of thousands, 3 multiples of 1,000. It's a pretty big area. If this breaks, we could definitely see a quick spike and some momentum to the 4,000 area. I wouldn't necessarily try to get too cute and, just hold necessarily. You could sell into strength instead of trying to nail the top. So in essence, we really got to break this $3,000 area, right? I personally wouldn't be longing a breakout or anything like that. I felt much more comfortable on that dip buy, buy low, sell high type of thing versus the breakout. So that's, to me, is a safer entry. But I'm not going to try to get too cute with the markets in that position and just wait for 4,000. Obviously, this kind of fell shy of that 3,000 mark before it had a big pullback. So I'll probably, start taking profit at like 3,500 area just to be on the safe side, and still likely let some ride until it rolls over. And I'm also going to be selling some longer term Bitcoin holdings. So I've already sold, I would say I've probably already sold about 15% just to manage risk, 10 to 15%. So, and I'll sell some more. So that's Bitcoin. Am I going to take any at 3K? Well, I'm actually technically selling a little bit incrementally along the way type of thing. Little bits and pieces here type of thing. Just casually taking profit. And listen, I'm not trying to nail the top of the bubble or anything like that. I mean, it could go up to 5,000, right? Yeah, I do recommend BitMEX over Bitfinex for scalping. So it could go up to 5,000 even, right? Definitely hit up these areas and then pull back. If it were to hit the 4,000 area, then be making a similar measured move that we saw in 2013. But let's look at something else. Ripple, right? So last week I did a market update and I mentioned Ripple could potentially produce a big head and shoulders, right? Well, we had a bounce. I saw a lot of people chasing that bounce on Twitter, right? Like, oh, look, the descending trend line's broken, blah, blah, blah. No, it looks like a big head and shoulders to me. Now, it could bounce. It could still recover. But if we start to break down below support, if we break this neckline, then it could be a good short entry. It could be a good short entry. And there's a lot of downside, right? So this definitely looks like a big nasty head and shoulders to me on the daily. I mean, it's possible it could recover, but anything's possible, and you still got to manage risk. But I don't know. I'm skeptical. A lot of people investing in Ripple at these levels, and I feel like if something goes up 5,000% in a month, it might not be the best investment long term. Maybe long term in the long run, but good news with Ripple. And listen, I'm chomping at the bit for Ripple to break down. And I think I wouldn't mind seeing some more blood in altcoins and for the bubble to pop a little bit. Because that means we just get a new reaccumulation cycle, right? If I were to play the short, I think it would be a longer term short. So, for example, if I were to use like a, let's say a fib. Okay, let me just use a fib retracement. So, it just so happens that we also have, not exactly, but at that roughly almost the one area, kind of where support is. You know, there's a lot of, so it does make sense that there's a lot of support here. Obviously, if it broke down, then we could definitely see a bigger push down. But you know, these markets have recovered as well, so it's not over till it's over. But this definitely does look like a reversal pattern on the daily, right? So the good news is you can now store Ripple on the Ledger Nano. So Ripple will be on my accumulation list. It was on my accumulation list when it was in the gutter down here, but unfortunately I didn't have any real safe way to store it aside from just keeping it all on a exchange, and that's not really safe for accumulating. A lot of the things I accumulate, I tend to pick things that I can store on a Trezor or Ledger Nano that's secure to store, because you also have to acknowledge that level of risk, right? So anyways, that's Ripple. Something to keep note of. Obviously though, I wouldn't be balanced if I didn't show you two possibilities, right? So I'll show you both sides. The other side of the coin is that prior all-time high resistance over here has turned into support. So even though it produced a head and shoulders pattern, does not mean that it cannot bounce and invalidate the head and shoulders and recover, or maybe produce a dead cat bounce or whatever. So, but you know, based on the fib retracement, the head and shoulders, and this previous all-time high resistance up here, if we were to break down from this level, there's definitely a considerable amount of downside risk, right? But even then, you can get these one-off bounces and stuff like that, right? So something to keep in mind. Obviously, shorting requires tighter risk management because you're trading on margin than, let's say, buying an altcoin on spot. Now, speaking of buying an altcoin on spot, what was it that was performing really well today? ARK. ARK is actually producing some really nice pay dirt right now. And it's possible we could end up breaking the all-time highs. All right, so far I'm up a double on ARK. So this was a very interesting market. Like I mentioned yesterday, initially I bought on the what looked like a breakout, turned fake out, was down like minus 20 or 30 in the red, did nothing, just held it. Because I did like this sideways action accumulation. So looked like support was holding up. So instead of closing and, wimping out and closing and taking a 30% hit, now I've doubled my money, right? But that's just also because it's a low cap, mid cap. If this was, really, really higher market, then, maybe I would have set a stop or something, but. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it if we break out. It doesn't look like this is slowing down to me. We had a little correction and we continued up on the trajectory. We still haven't seen any vertical yet, like green vertical spike. If we break the all-time high right here, then I wouldn't be surprised to see some vertical right here. I wouldn't be surprised. And if that's the case, then I'd be looking at maybe 300% on that. And, depending on where Bitcoin is in its cycle, obviously if it pushes up, no, I'm not adding on a breakout. For me, it's like if I got a good cost basis on a mid cap, I don't ruin it by adding on breakouts. I just if it was a very liquid market, maybe, but you could easily get faked out and then ruin your cost basis and turn a winner into a loser, right? So I'm satisfied with with my position, what I got. I bought exactly how much I wanted of this market, so I'm just being patient. Let's see what happens. I noticed yesterday Trust looked like it was getting ready to break out. It was really testing this all-time high. It still is. Right? So I'm doing nothing with this. This is another one I'm up a bunch on. Probably up, I don't know, what am I up on that? TRST, 70%. So I'm just being patient with it. So that's just kind of review. Again, you know, targets, fib extensions. Now, I might, I said that I want to wait for like 5 or 10x on a bunch, but I might start locking in profit a little bit earlier depending on where Bitcoin is at in its market cycle. Because obviously if Bitcoin were to, like if the Bitcoin bubble were to pop, then I probably don't want to be in a lot of stuff. So if I can lock in some hard profits on stuff, but it'll be scaling out. It won't be like going all out. What I think I might do for some of these mid caps is just do another quick scan on the fundamentals on a lot of these to see what the long-term viability is, the projects. And I might just sell half to lock in profit once we hit higher levels, maybe like half on triples or something like that. And then probably just keep the rest long term. If it goes to the gutter to nothing, then it goes to nothing. And if it does some crazy thing like 10x or 50x or something stupid, then hey, I won't kick myself for having sold. Because not only will that pull out all my risk capital that I put into it, but it'll also lock in hard profit. So no matter what, so that's the kind of, when I invest in things, quote unquote, long term, just to say, hey, what could possibly come of these markets? That's kind of the way I like to do it, right? You know, lock in some profit, take out your risk capital, and then you can let the rest ride and it doesn't matter. And I did that with ICN, right? I locked in, I locked in, took out my risk capital, and the rest is like, who cares what it does? Then you can have real strong hands because now you're just playing with pure play money. There's like nothing the market can do that can make you lose money if you've already pulled out your risk capital and locked in hard profit, right? So there's a different mindset being a long-term investor versus a trader. And ideally, you maximize and do both, right? Looking at AMP, I mean, there's like a little bit of a double top here, but this is so kind of range bound that whatever. So let me just look here. Okay, so we had a little dip on AMP. Bounced up fairly, got snapped up really high. Or really fast, I mean. They've got a tech release happening this month. I know what happens when they do tech releases. All the dumb money and last minute shoppers start pumping things on the day, you know, 10x stupid things. You know? You people could know months in advance, 6 months in advance, whatever, you know, some tech release. And Scenario blog. Check out Scenario. And people will still wait 5 minutes till midnight, or when it hits the Trollbox feed, someone posts a link, then they all start buying. Right? So while, you know, this isn't the most ideal area to buy, obviously. The most ideal area, in my personal taste and preferences, is, you know, somewhere down here. But based on the reason why I bought a little bit higher, and I'm up in profit now, is because things on Poloniex were up so high. I would just say, you know, people asking, where did I hear about the tech releases, so on and so forth. I would say just join Slack channels, right? Every project has a Slack channel. Just join the Slack channels and you'll stay up to date. Or, you know, hashtag AMP on Twitter, or check out Scenario subreddit on Reddit. And they have a blog. I think Scenario has a blog. I read it off their blog that they have a tech release. And then there's also Telegram groups, right? So this is where you can get, you know, intel. Sure, yeah, there's a lot of Slack channels, and, you know, it literally takes me a couple of minutes to join a Slack channel, and then I can just, you know, save the password in my browser or use the same one for all the different Slack channels, because I don't really care too much about the security of those Slack channels, because I don't have any money on the line or anything like that. So obviously use a good strong password, but and then you know, I it's all saved in my browser. I could just type in any Slack channel and it'll just automatically pull me up without even logging in anymore. And so I'll just do that. I'll just do that. So anyways, these are still a couple things I'm just waiting and letting cook right now. So I'm gonna keep today's market update a little bit shorter, so it's easier for people to watch and to upload. So that's it for today's market update.